to another episode of Wizard Goes Boom. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about Dungeons and Dragons economics and how that could affect your game. One of the issues that I've had in my 5-year-long campaign that took the characters from levels 1 to 15, and I'm sure many others like you out there have faced a similar problem, is that players don't seem to know the value of the gold that they have, the money. They tend to either hoard it or spend frivolously. And they don't really see the coinage that they use affect the world much. When they want to buy something, you look it up on a price list in the player's handbook, and they purchase it, and that's the end of it. Or they just don't spend the gold at all. They hoard it. And the particular issue I ran into was that over those 15 levels, the adventuring party had accumulated, I would say, well over 1 million gold. And personally, I don't really like the idea of magical shops where you can buy magic items. I think those should be rare and should be something that's a reward for adventuring as opposed to something you could just buy at a store somewhere. But that's another topic. Even still, they did find plenty of things to spend the gold on. And at one point, I kind of had to put my foot down and say, look, you guys are spending all this money and gold in an economy, and you're going to crush it. You're going to cause inflation with the amount of money you're dropping at the same time. And the other question I would ask is, where are they keeping all of this gold? They tried to deposit it in a bank of a town, and I told them, well, listen, you're injecting all this currency into an economy. That's going to have some consequences. And I think the consequences part is really the gist of what I'm talking about here. That gold will be more real to them if they see it affect the world around them. You know, I'm a big stickler for immersion. And there should be some consequences both for spending large amounts of coin and also hoarding. One way to think about this is what happened to the economy of California, the local towns within California, and also the world economy during the gold rush. If the characters are spending their coin, that's going to cause some problems, especially if they're spending big coin. In the California gold rush, you had about a 30% inflation rate, and that was nationally. That wasn't even for the state of California, from the gold rush. In some places in California itself, the rate of inflation was something like 1,000%. And you might be thinking, well, you know, how much damage could an adventuring party really do in, let's say, a small village? Well, not a whole lot, because small villages don't have much to buy to begin with. But let's suppose they started buying up large tracts of land. And, of course, wizards need to do their spell research, and they may need their spell components, and even small towns will have blacksmiths that'll make the armor that they need. Really, players will just find a way to spend the money if they're not hoarding it. They'll just find a way. Now, for the big spenders, there's two possible solutions here in terms of real-world consequence. One could be the inflationary spiral. What happens there is, to prevent shortages, prices are going to increase every time the adventurers get back from a dungeon and they drop a lot of money in town. And since the prices go up, next time they go into a dungeon, maybe you're going to have to adjust the treasure hoard to make up for the fact that there's inflation. So you have to give them more treasure. And then they go spend it in town again, prices go up again, and it becomes an ugly spiral. That's one potential solution. Another solution suggested by Gary Gygax in the AD&D First Edition Dungeon Master's Guide are actually just tax them. And what I mean by that is that adventurers are definitely going to catch the attention of the local authorities, and maybe even the authorities on a national or kingdom level. Since the California gold rush didn't just affect California, it affected the whole country with a 30% inflation rate, which was huge. I mean, the California gold rush even affected the world economy, increasing the money supply by a few percentage points, and that's for the entire world. So if they're big spenders, they're definitely going to catch the attention of the authorities. And of course, some of the suggestions were duties, excises, fees, tariffs, taxes, tithes, and tolls. Clerics and paladins, of course, are going to have to tithe, so that comes with the class. But then there's also road tolls. Everybody's going to want a piece of that pie that the adventurers have. And in addition to road tolls, there could also be tolls for entering a town, which was common during the medieval period of Europe, and in fact common throughout the world during that time. And then once you get there, the authorities might require that you exchange your coins for locally minted coinage. And there's a fee involved there. And if you don't exchange your coinage, there could be a severe penalty imposed by the authorities, such as wealth confiscation or a big fine of half of the wealth. One suggestion by Gary Gygax was that the moneylenders give 90% of the value once money is exchanged. And of course, another thing would be is that local merchants may not accept anything but local currency. It could very well be that whatever treasure that the adventurers have could already be hundreds, if not thousands of years old. They could be from another nation, and of course they'll be required to exchange that. So there's an exchange rate, and usually it's not favorable. And once they're inside the town, there could be a sales tax and various other taxes that the players will have to deal with. There'll certainly be income taxes and tariffs on goods purchased. Why is all this taxation suggested? Well, in economics, one of the ways to reduce inflation is by taxation, to reduce disposable income. And of course, the biggest ones with the most disposable income will likely be adventurers. The players certainly won't like it, but it'll make the world feel more real to them, and that their treasure has real world consequences, whether they spend it or if they hoard it. Now, the other side of it is the hoarding of treasure. The question I would ask is, how are they carrying all this around? Well, could be bags of holding, but again, that's a rare magic item. And if they decide to deposit in a bank, again, all this treasure that they have on hand, whether they try to deposit it or have it in a bag of holding or whatever, is definitely going to catch the attention of the authorities, whether they spend the money or they don't spend it. And this goes back into factions. Certainly, there's going to be guilds that will want a piece of the pie, and of course the local authorities will want a piece of the pie, and maybe even kingdom level or regional authorities will want a piece of the pie as well. But if your players really don't like that, it could just be a simple matter of adjusting the prices in the player's handbook to reflect the inflation that they cause. But in that solution, you again run the risk of causing an inflationary spiral situation. So I would like to hear everyone's thoughts on this matter of Dungeons and Dragons economics. Leave a comment for me in the comments section. Be happy to hear from you. In the meantime, I hope you have a great holiday, and thank you for watching.